Let me now go to you, Gail, because you were talking about a visioning process. How do you all think this is going to be adapted to East Palo Alto? You're having community groups. What are the community groups doing?
Well, we've met with over 100 people in about a dozen sessions since November 23rd. We just concluded a visioning session with youth December 8th. And we actually had a chance to do it with the Fellowship of Faith, a series of ministers and church leaders on December 3rd. And what we're trying to do right now, or what we have accomplished, is a discussion and dialogue within the community around how we envision poverty, what we feel will be the ways to address poverty in the community, and how we could help do that in relationship to the Promised Neighborhood in Harlem's Children's Zone. And we feel very good about the results of that. I think we feel very good about the kinds of commitments that people have offered and shared with us.
Well, when you talk about the visioning, what type of questions are you asking?
One of the questions that we ask right off the top is, how do people conceive of or see poverty in the East Palo Alto area? And the second question is one where we ask people, what would the community look like without poverty?
And when you ask them how they conceive of poverty, what kind of responses do they give?
Probably the most compelling one we heard was with the reentry group at Free at Last.
And these are parole reentry?
Yes. They're part of the reentry program with Chief Davis and Free at Last organization. One fellow said, I see poverty when I look in the mirror. I see myself. It's very profound for somebody to realize where they are in life and thinking about not just what they don't have economically, but what's also missing for them spiritually and emotionally as well.
So what are the characteristics that they say that are indicative of poverty? What specific things do they point out?
Well, I think the community of folks, and if I could talk from the standpoint of the young people first, that's the last session. The young people asked the question, if the community loves me, why are there potholes? Why aren't there lights on the street? Why aren't there sidewalks? Why aren't there rec centers, community centers? Why are our schools failing us? Why are we bused so far away? Why don't we have schools within our own community? Why is my mom and dad suffering economically? And what kind of role model is that for me? Can I look past my own parents in terms of economic opportunity when they right now are in the throes of poverty? And that's from the young people. The fact that we had one young lady, when we had a question about violence in the community and hearing gunshots, or how recent young people have been involved in deaths of friends or shootings of friends, one young lady said that she was scared that she wasn't scared anymore, and that it troubled her that she didn't have that same anxiety coming up. And many of the young people began to talk about the fact that they've just put up walls, that it's just suspected that they're going to live in a violent community with no change and no way of getting out of it.
The groups that, and I think, Stuart, you have been in various group sessions too.
3 sessions, yes.
Okay. Were they similar, some of the responses, or how did they differ?
So the first 3 groups that I attended actually were stakeholders, community building organizations, education folks. And so it was a different point of view. Some of us, like myself, who's a resident as well as a professional in this work, saw it very clearly, like the potholes or cars parked on the sidewalk so that people have to walk around, people living in cars. We saw it that way as examples of poverty. So what we saw as being healed or poverty eradicated was a community that was, first of all, a diverse community, pretty much the same folks living here, but living very differently. Maybe 2 or 3 cars in the driveway rather than 4 or 5 cars around the property, sometimes parked on the grass. We saw a very different, physically different. So we saw small parks and things for families where families can get together in the city instead of making it so difficult right now because there's few parks. Some of the professionals were very specific though. Teachers were saying that their students would come prepared, well rested. When they would send material home, parents would actually come back in the evening and have the parent-teacher conferences. It wouldn't be so difficult to get parents engaged. And that's because parents would have just one job, like an 8 to 5 job as opposed to several jobs, and not being able to be more present in their children's lives.
I am sure the questions you are asking and the responses are questions and responses that could have been given 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So what is it that's going on now that gives you some type of expectation that there can be some real changes made?
Well, I don't think anyone has ever asked me what I thought about poverty. I've been in this for a number of years, and I've been at this kind of work in several different states in the United States. I don't think any of the organizations or any of the movements I've been involved with have ever framed a question around what does poverty look like. We just assumed that it would be here. And I don't think anyone's ever asked me to envision a community without it. We just assumed it would always be here. So to begin to engage young people, returnees, community leaders and others, and religious leaders in a question about poverty and about getting rid of it in a community is radically new.